Waters, and this is my world. So you guys have been trying to get me out to the ranch for quite some time, and the last time I was out here in California, I was shooting at Waters World at the beach, obviously, and I asked a young man, and I said, when did America declare its independence? And the guy looks at me and he says, the 1980s. And I said, I didn't know Reagan beat the British and the Soviets. But that was outside of a marijuana dispensary, so that could explain it. I love the 80s. I was a child of the 80s. I was the Alex P. Keaton of my household. Family ties. So I had the collar up. My parents were far left radicals. Both of my parents were tear gassed protesting the Vietnam War. My dad has a beard. No offense to anybody that has beards. They used to send me to outdoor camps. All I want to do is play tennis all summer. So it was tough at the Thanksgiving table. I cleared the whole Thanksgiving table out, though, last time. Last man standing. And I'm proud of that. So I think around college, I started thinking, what is going on? And all my friends at Trinity got jobs on Wall Street. They wanted to make a little money, obviously. And I thought, let's go make some money, too. So I tried to work in finance, but apparently you have to have a basic grasp of arithmetic to handle other people's money. Or maybe if you look at Wall Street, you don't have to. So I got fired from a few jobs and wound up working for the Pataki re-election campaign in New York. So I worked for the Attorney General candidate who was running against Eliot Spitzer. Remember Eliot Spitzer? The Black Sox. So Eliot had some secrets. We did not find out that Eliot was sleeping with prostitutes all up and down the East Coast. Could have been useful information if we had wanted to win that campaign. But we lost. We got crushed by 30 points, but Pataki won. But then I was out of a job. So I had to find work at Fox News Channel. And my parents were a little uneasy. But I started working at Fox. I think I was around 23. And I started literally in the basement of Fox, working Tuesdays through Sundays, 2 p.m. to midnight, minimum wage, freelance, no health insurance. Okay, so started at the bottom. And then a job opened up on The Factor. And I said, whoa, let's go do that. I went upstairs to interview with Bill. I hand Bill the resume. Bill looks at me. What's your father do? First question. Okay, I told Bill what my father did. Dead silence. Super awkward. And then I said, Bill, I just read your latest book. It was phenomenal. And he goes, you seem like a smart kid. You start Monday. But the minute I got hired by Bill, he almost fired me the next week. It's a true story. So we have these pitch meetings on The Factor where everybody gets in a big circle around O'Reilly in the newsroom in front of all these people, and we pitch stories which we think would make good segments. And it's terrifying because Bill's up there shooting these things down. You're an idiot. That's not going to get us a rating. What are you doing? You're trying to bring down the franchise. So my first pitch meeting, I get up and I start and I say like this. And O'Reilly says, interns don't pitch. Next. And my executive producer said, Bill, you just hired him. This is Jesse. He's your new production assistant. And he goes, all right, what do you got? Go. And I pitched. And later that afternoon, the producer brings me to his office and says, Jesse, Bill does not think you're articulate enough to do the show. You have 2 weeks to turn it around or you're fired. So almost got fired. I spent the next 2 weeks freaking out, working till midnight, trying to do the best I could at these pitch meetings. I finally turned it around. So one of the next pitch meetings, I said, O'Reilly, there's this judge in Alabama, and he gave this guy a really soft sentence for child molestation. And Bill says, okay, Waters, you're going to go down to Alabama and confront the judge. I was like, where's Alabama? I've never been south of the Mason-Dixon line. So the next morning, I'm 6 a.m. staked outside this judge's courthouse with a freelance camera crew. and we're holed up in the vehicle, and car leaves. We start tailing this guy through the back roads of Alabama. I'm panic attack city. Guy gets out of his car. I run up on him with the mic. Judge Bush, how could you do that? What were you thinking? And the guy looks at me and goes, I'm not Judge Bush. And I go, Judge Bush, what? And he goes, pulls out his badge. I'm a state trooper, but I'm going to tell Judge Bush you're looking for him. So the first time I ambushed the wrong guy. Turns out Judge Bush found out I was in town, agreed to read an on-camera statement to me. Big mistake. Because I called O'Reilly and I said, Bill, he's going to tell me something on camera. What do you want me to do? Bill says, Waters, yell at him when he starts speaking. And I'm 23. And this judge comes out from his chambers in his robe, and he's very official, and I have the camera there on the tripod, and he starts explaining his sentence. And I start just hammering him. Judge, don't you believe in justice? Judge, what would you like to say to the victim's family? How do you live with yourself? And this judge gets frazzled and runs back inside, and we bring the tape back to New York, and we run it. Bill's pleased, but he brings me to his office and says, good job down there in Alabama, Waters. One thing. Your voice is too high-pitched for television. You need a speech coach. Me? I never had that problem. So the next time he sends me down to Florida, there is a story, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, Jessica Lunsford, this poor young girl who was kidnapped by a thrice convicted sex offender, kept in a trailer park for 3 days, repeatedly raped, and then buried alive. Yes, and there were people in the trailer, living in the trailer, knowing she was there the whole time, did not report this to the police. Bill named these people the slugs. So he says, all right, Waters, I want you to go down there and talk to these slugs. So I go down to Homosassa, Florida. Okay, I check in a hotel. They have mosquito netting in the hotel room. And I said, Bill, how do I find out where these people are? He goes, go to the local watering hole, talk to the folks. Bill always does this. He's like straight out of the 70s. I'm like, Bill, where do I go? He goes, go to the barbershop, Waters. They know the scoop. Like, I'd be like, what? He'll be like, we'll be out here like doing something about the Russians. He's like, they had their pinky rings, the Olgas on the sidelines. Just talk to him about Putin. Anyway, so I go to this bar. It's called Colonel Frogs. And I'm knocking back dollar beers and talking to the folks to try to get the drop on the slugs. And I get the drop on the slugs, so we go to the trailer park, and I knock, and they're like, oh, they're down this way, but they have dogs. And I don't like dogs, except Fenway. Love Fenway. So I stopped at 7-Eleven, and I buy some sausages, some Scooby snacks to throw off the dogs. So we roll up to the trailer park, and these dogs start running at me, vicious creatures. In hindsight, they were probably like tiny dogs, but I was scared of them. And so I take the sausage, I throw the sausage at the dogs peel off and eat the sausage, and then I beeline for the trailer. So I knock on the trailer door, and these are crack fiends, really disgusting people. And I'm knocking, and she's one of the people, Dorothy Dixon was her name. She flows out the back, and we get her on camera, and, why didn't you turn this guy in? How do you, what's going on? You could have saved this girl's life. Great footage. And we call Bill, and Bill's like, all right, Waters, you're going to be on the show tonight. Drive to Tampa. You have 3 hours. And I'm still hungover for, knocking back drinks. So I sobered up real quick. We drove up to Tampa. But I didn't have anything to wear, so I go to a Walmart. And I buy a jacket and tie at Walmart. First time and last time ever at Walmart. No offense to Walmart. And I do the interview, and it was a home run. So Bill saw something in me. I was obviously cool enough under pressure to handle it, and I was mostly just terrified of him. He didn't know that, though. So we ambushed a bunch of people over the years, and we're proud of that did not deliver justice for children. But then Bill had this great idea. Let's go out and find out how much young people know about current events. And we found out they know very little. So he nicknamed it Waters World. And he goes, we're going to call it Waters World. We're going to name it after the biggest box office bomb of all time. So good luck, Waters. So, here are some examples of Water's World questions and answers. These are real. These are real. Okay? Who won the Civil War? France. What body of water is on the east coast of the United States? The Red Sea. Ready? Who did America fight in the Vietnam War? Not a trick question. South Korea. Okay, so, I mean, I could do all day. You want more? I got it all. Bernie Sanders, where is he from? Doesn't know. Vermont. What's Vermont? I mean, I could do this for an hour. I mean, but it's so bad, and people are oblivious. But here's the deal. It's funny, but it's sad because the government can bamboozle and hoodwink people because no one's paying attention. And that's why you have things like no WMDs, Obamacare fiasco. If you like your health care plan, you can keep it. Vets aren't taken care of. The border's open. It's a disaster. We have $20 trillion in debt. It's because no one holds politicians accountable because they don't care, and no one knows, and no one pays attention, and no one even votes. So this was basically the electorate in about a year and a half ago. So we're facing these people who are going to vote for our next president. And we have Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, the two frontrunners, the two most boring people in the world. This is what America was facing. But here comes Donald Trump on the escalator. I was looking at Melania. I wasn't even looking at Donald. I was looking at Melania. I didn't even see Donald. So he comes down, and everybody thinks he's there to sell hats, you know, make America great again. And he gives a great speech. He says the thing about Mexican rapists, and the media just focuses on that. And they're saying Trump is not serious. He's in it for the ratings, for The Apprentice. He doesn't want to do it. Underestimated him. And they did this throughout the campaign. Next stop, the Iowa State Fair. Do you guys remember the Iowa State Fair? This is where all these politicians go and press the flesh and try to act like real people. You know, you have the fried sticks of butter, and, you know, there's like, you kiss a pig or something. I've never been. I'd love it, though. And Cruz is there, and, you know, Rubio's there. And what does Trump do? The billionaire in the $3,000 suit lands the helicopter in the middle of the state fair, takes a bite out of pork chop on a stick, and then starts giving children rides in the helicopter. Completely owns the state fair in 20 minutes. And the media is focused on the pork chop and the suit, and they're not seeing this guy is resonating with regular people. They're missing it, and they miss it the whole time. Then a couple months later, we had the San Bernardino situation. People should have never been in this country. Total failure of the vetting situation. And President Obama comes out and says, has nothing to do with Islam, and we need gun control. Really? Donald Trump comes out and says we need a Muslim ban, and if the good guys had guns, these people would have been smoked. Okay? Maybe not the most articulate way to say it, but at that point, Trump elevates himself right up next to the President of the United States in the national conversation. So he's here, and he's going into the first debate on Fox ahead of the field. We all remember what happened at the first debate. So Megyn Kelly tees him up with this question. You know, you say this about women, this, only Rosie O'Donnell. He wins the debate right there. Wins it. It's over. Everybody else can go home. But Trump's so sensitive, and it was kind of a tough question. Sensitive guy, though, defends his honor. Gets into this vicious war with Megyn Kelly. Gets into a war with Fox News, takes on Fox News, bails on the next Fox News debate, does some charity deal. And I don't know, ends up, I think, what was he, second in the Iowa caucus? Who beat him? Lying Ted beat him? Someone beat him. And so, he's back on his heels. But he's doing better. And so he goes into these debates and just starts ridiculing people. Little Marco, Lying Ted, Low Energy Jeb. It's great. It's great. Everyone, the media loves it. I mean, it's hilarious. And these guys don't know what to do. Marco's sweating backstage. I've never seen a guy sweat so much. It's hysterical. But, he's just zoning in on these people because he's a branding expert. He's a great branding and marketing expert. He's taglining someone like he did in middle school, and that nickname sticks. And Lying Ted stuck. He said his father killed JFK and his wife. The whole thing. It was crazy. But he wins. He wins the primary. Everyone thought he was going to drop out of the primary, but he wins the primary. And now he actually has to form a campaign. But he's triangulating on policy. He's got the wall. He's tough on that, but he's, soft on healthcare. He's tough on China, but he loves the Russians. But he's got this kind of balance going on where he's peeling off Bernie people, and he's not that hardcore about social issues to make Hillary that angry. So he's rolling into the summer. And what happens in the summer? Comey happens. So Loretta Lynch has a secret meeting on the tarmac with Bill, and that's fine, apparently. And then Comey comes out. Everyone's, bated breath, thinks he's going to indict her. Calls her an idiot. Says she doesn't even know S stands for, secure on the sheets. Says she doesn't even know how to use her phone, but she didn't intentionally commit a felony, so she's off the hook. And in a way, it helps Donald Trump because that sets up the rig narrative. The system is rigged. If Hillary can't get indicted over something that anybody else in this country would be indicted for, the system is rigged. And this helps him. So he's going now into the first Republican National Convention in August or late July, I believe. And he's ahead in the polls. Can you believe it? Donald Trump is ahead. But Melania plagiarizes her speech. Poor Melania. Must have been a tough day at Trump Tower that day. And the media's focused on Scott Baio and, the guy with the beard from Duck Dynasty and all these people. But Trump gives this sensational speech and really hits all the high notes about, America first and draining the swamp and fair trade and things like that. But the media calls it dark. It's so dark. And everyone says the same word. It's like they're on the same playbook. But he comes out kind of having a very, very good convention. And then Hillary has her convention. And that actually was dark because I was there. And I think Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the head of the DNC, ends up leaving because she rigged the primary against Bernie. And Bernie people are in the streets rioting and holding up nasty signs against Hillary. It's not kumbaya, but the media is saying it's kumbaya. But what does Donald Trump do? Instead, he decides to get into a fight with a Gold Star family. Not a good move. So August is rough on Trump. Very rough. And he's down big, down about 15 points. But what happens? Trump, you're fired. Fires his entire staff and hires a whole new group of people. Bannon and Kellyanne, brings them all in. And Trump discovers something. The teleprompter. We love Trump on the teleprompter. We made fun of Obama when he used it, but we love when Trump is on prompter. Because he stays on message, and he hits the slogans, and he starts doing all these events while Hillary's napping. And then, so he basically ties it up. And then we're coming early September, and what happens to Hillary? Hillary faints. Remember? You'd faint too if you were married to Bill. So Hillary goes down, bloop. And it's on tape. If it hadn't been on tape, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But she goes down, so he comes in with a lot of momentum to the first debate. But instead of studying, Trump wings it, doesn't prepare, and whiffs, and leaves a lot on the table. And for some reason, he starts fighting with this beauty queen, who he called fat 30 years ago. Not the best look. Then we're going into the second debate, and Hillary's coughing up a storm, and it's hilarious. And... yeah, she's sick. She's poor Hillary. And then we're coming into the second debate, and locker room talk. Remember locker room talk? Yeah, not good. So locker room talk happens, and all the Republicans run the other way, and the entire party's fractured, and then Hillary's going to win Texas. Remember, Hillary was going to start winning Texas and Arizona, and everyone was going to move to Canada. So, even me. So we go into the second debate, and instead of apologizing profusely, which he kind of did, Trump doubles down and brings every single victim and mistress of Bill Clinton to the debate and holds a press conference an hour before and threatens to sit Jennifer Flowers next to Bill. I mean, Bill's already looking at Melania. Now he's got Jennifer over here. So he fights fire with fire, but he actually comes out and does a nice little apology, and I can't believe it, he puts the thing to bed and just crucifies Hillary. His best debate, hammers her on policy, great comebacks, zingers, one-liners. Remember, you'd be in jail, Hillary, if I was president. Wins it with that line. But the polls don't move, which is suspicious because it was such a dynamite performance by Trump. And we're looking at the polls, and no one can figure it out. And we're going into the third debate, and it's not making sense. The third debate was kind of boring, even though Fox hosted it. No offense to Chris Wallace. The only thing that come out of that was that I believe Trump said if the day after the election, he wouldn't really concede. So that was ironic because it was Hillary that didn't really concede the day after, but that's besides the point. So everyone was talking about Trump's a threat to democracy. He's going to throw this country into a constitutional crisis. And we're about 2 weeks out. And then things start turning. Obamacare premiums, perfect timing, start spiking. You have WikiLeaks coming out, Chelsea's a mess, bimbo eruptions, they're worried about the foundation. Hillary has two positions, a public and a private position. Hillary loves open borders, the whole thing. The New York Times doesn't even report it, but Fox does. And I think O'Keefe comes out with these videos that shows their Democrats sending in people to throw punches at Trump rallies. That was blamed on Trump people. And they have Democrats admitting on hidden camera, too, that they commit voter fraud. So this is all happening, and things are moving in that direction. And then Comey comes out again. Comey comes out and reopens the criminal investigation. So things are kind of moving in Trump's direction, but the polls really aren't reflecting it. I think it gets down to about 5 points. So it's about 2 days out, and Trump's going to places like Michigan. And he's going to Wisconsin. And we're like, are you brain dead, dude? Like, what are you doing? Like, what is happening? Why are you going here? Why are you wasting your time? And Hillary's out there with the rappers in Philly, and she's taking it easy. And she thinks it's locked. So election night, remember what happened election night? The polls, the exit polls, it was going to be an early night. Hillary was going to wrap it up. But it wasn't an early night. It was a late night. It was so late Hillary went to bed before she conceded. So he wins Michigan, and he wins Wisconsin, and he wins Pennsylvania, cleans the clock, basically. And Trump's the next president of the United States. Make America great again. He did it. No one thought he was going to win the primary. No one thought he was going to win the general, and he kept beating everybody's expectations. But instead of conceding, what the left did was the left blamed Russia. Well, first they rioted and burned a lot of things. Then they blamed Russia and said that, the hacking affected the election. I think the only hacking that affected the election was Hillary's cough. Because she was not a well woman. She did not have the energy that Donald Trump had, and that's true. He out-hustled her, he outworked her, and people just were sick of her. And his message resonated. So the transition was smooth, he says it's smooth. President Obama, as you've read in the New York Times, has laid all these landmines for President Trump. We've seen that. And he's got some decent cabinet officials in there. Obamacare's repeal and replace is kind of rocky right now. But we've got some great economic numbers to come out. Consumer confidence is up. The markets are on a tear. So, I think the next 2 years will probably look pretty strong. And I asked President Trump about that. I saw him on Air Force One. And so we get in the plane, and I'm just trying not to steal everything. Because everything like this glass will have, the Air Force One emblazoned on it right there, and I got sticky fingers, and I'm throwing everything in my pocket, and I said, I can't steal from the American people. So I got the M&Ms instead. And so we talked to Donald for a little while, and he's pretty cool, and he's just a man of the people. And but he comes back to the section I was in. They put the fake news people in the back, and then I got my section up front. And so Donald comes over, and he's like, oh, see that crowd in Nashville? Man, 10,000, 15,000, overflow. I mean, we had 30, 40, 50, 100,000. I said, Donald, big crowd. I mean, there's like 20,000 people there. He's like, you see my numbers? Best they've ever been. Best they've ever been, Jesse. You're unbelievable. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it myself. Great numbers. I mean, he loves it. I'm like, Mr. President, you're still obsessed with your poll numbers. He said, yep. And so, he tells me to put the cameras down, so we put the cameras down. And, he's doing his thing. He's just the man of the hour. And he starts telling us this story. Do you guys know who Lance Bass is? Because, really? Okay, well, that explains nothing. And then, in a way it does, though, and I'll get to that. So he's listening to In Sync, and I was busting the president's chops. Like, are you listening to In Sync when you're doing your music deal at Nashville at the event? And he goes, I love Lance Bass. Lance Bass is a stud. I was at some event the other day with Lance, and there was some guy on the New York Jets, big muscular guy, like Adonis, dumb as a doornail, but had this beautiful woman next to him, and Lance walks by, and you should have seen this girl. She just left this Jets player, and she just headed in Lance's direction, and I go, Mr. President, I hate to break it to you, Lance Bass is gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But so POTUS does not have the best gaydar, but that's besides the point. And he goes, all right, Waters, I'm going to go now talk to the failing New York Times. I'll see you later. So the point is, you can't believe the fake news. They will lie to you. They'll deceive you. They were wrong about President Trump from the beginning. They're still wrong about him. So if you're only going to listen to one source of news, listen to Fox News. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, guys. Questions? Yeah, let's do questions, yeah.
All right, Jesse will take your questions. If you're a student, make sure that you state your name, your high school, and where you're from. And if you're not a student, tell us your name and where you're from. And we'll be walking around with the mic, so do let us know if you have a question.
Hi, I'm Hope White from St. John, Washington. My question is, if you had one sentence to inspire people to become Fox contributors, what would that be?
Are you looking for a job?
Maybe.
Dye your hair blonde. No. No, I'm serious. Seriously. Well, maybe we'll just leave it at that.
Hi, Mr. Waters. My name is Grayson Hoy. I'm from University Place, Washington, and I attend Liberty University online. Big fan, by the way.
You have great taste.
Thank you. So, how has a history degree contributed to your career in journalism?
When people ask you, what do you do with a history degree, you're supposed to say, anything I want. So tell them that. No, I mean, history's great. I've always been interested in history. And it'll just give you perspective, because, if you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And, you don't want to wind up on Waters World, so study your history.
Question right over here.
Hi, my name is John McKenzie. I'm from Santa Barbara, not originally. But Kellyanne
Conway.
Yes. Your impression, comments?
I love Kellyanne Conway. I used to book her when I was a producer for O'Reilly many, many years ago. She's from Philly, so I have to like her because I'm from Philly. And, you know, she's in a very tough position because she's on television so much. And as someone that does a lot of television, you're opening up yourself for a lot of opportunities to make a mistake, especially when the fake news media is trying to screw you. So I believe she's a great communicator for the president. I believe she really understands his message. I believe she has the trust of the president. I just saw her the other day in Nashville. She was there. She brings her children out on the road with her. She's a great mother. And, you know, she's unfairly attacked sometimes. She took a lot of heat, a lot of nasty criticism from, I think, a Democratic congressman who made fun of the way she was sitting in the Oval Office. And he was forced to apologize. And then Nancy Pelosi was asked to condemn him and didn't. So that says a lot about Nancy's feminist qualities. But I think Kellyanne she's a strong woman, first female to ever win a presidential campaign as manager. So I believe she'll stay there for a long time. I'd like to, no offense to Spicer, I'd like to see her behind the podium at the briefings. Yeah, better than Josh Earnest, yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I do watch your Waters World and am frequently appalled at the responses that you do get. When you select those people that you question, are you truly randomly selecting, or do you kind of observing them for a little while that, okay, this one looks smarter, this one really looks kind of
You want to know how the sausage is made?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm looking for characters. So we're looking for people with big personalities, and we don't leave a lot on the cutting room floor. You'd be surprised. If I interview 15 people, 12 people will make it. Sometimes we go 10 for 10. But I mean, I'm not going to lie. If someone's wearing like a nose ring and a facial tattoo and green hair, they're coming in Waters World. Or a bikini.
Jesse, that was a great recap of the Trump campaign. And I'm just curious, where was your aha moment? Where did you, during that process, go, hey, maybe, just maybe?
I was supportive of President Trump when he flirted with running in 2012. Not because of the birth certificate thing, but because of the way he handled the press. I saw him emasculate reporters, and I was just so impressed by that, because a lot of these politicians are so timid when they get around the media. They let the media bully them. They don't know how to dominate the media. They don't know how to field questions. And I saw Trump land one of his planes in New Hampshire when he was saying he was going to get Obama to reveal the birth certificate. And I think the minute his plane landed, Obama finally produced his birth certificate. And instead of being embarrassed about the timing, Donald Trump gets up and says, I was the only one that made the president reveal his birth certificate. And he took credit for it. He took credit. And I liked how dismissive he was of the media. You know, it was just very impressive. So I thought he had what it took for a long time. I like the fact that a businessman is the president, not just because he knows what he's talking about, but because he doesn't have this long track record of voting and hemming and hawing and just being involved in the swamp in D.C.
We have a question in the back here.
Hi, I'm Daniela Spadini, and I attend East Nicholas High School. I was wondering, after doing your show and seeing the state of our youth, where is it that you draw inspiration and drive to come to events like this for our youth?
The money. Listen, if people were educated, I'd be out of work. Listen, I could go to great schools, and I have. I've gone to Harvard, and I've asked people at Harvard. I said, what do you think about the Fast and the Furious scandal? And these grad students from Harvard said, I love that movie. What's wrong? So it's not about where you go to school, and I don't think people are dumb. I think people are oblivious. I don't think people are paying attention. I think Americans are smart people. I think that right now, with the way the media is set up, you don't have to pay attention. You know, we were just talking about this at the table. My wife has said this. She goes on 2 websites a day. She goes on the Huffington Post, and she goes on the Drudge Report. And if you do that, it's like you're living in 2 different countries. And that's why people are so polarized right now. But I think our children are smart. I think they have what it takes. Not everyone's dumb. Not everybody winds up on Water's World. It's really just a small fraction. Because I work out in New York. If I had Water's World in Texas, it wouldn't be so funny.
Hello, my name's Henry Fairley from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, you got to put your collar up, my man. Thank you.
What?
No, I'm not going to listen to the question unless it's up.
Should I put it up?
Don't you feel cooler?
A little bit. No, but a lot of people look up to you. Who do you look up to?
Well, Bill's 6'4". I look up to Bill. No, I think the president's a tremendous guy. I looked up to Ronald Reagan growing up, and I looked up to George W. Bush when I was in college, or out of college. I always admired Michael Jordan. I always admired Mike Tyson, his boxing, not his character. And I like athletes, and I like people like Trump and Reagan, guys like that reach the top.
Our final question today is coming from one of our high school students.
Hi, Jesse. I want to say love your show. I'm Cassidy Van Vorn from Samueli Academy, and my question is, do you have any advice for some young conservatives as we're about to go into college and face the world?
Liberals on college are emotional, and they get angry, and they get upset, and they even get violent. And we know about that from around here. So my best advice, and this is advice Bill has given to me, is that you don't want to get agitated. You don't want to get angry. You don't want to get emotional. You want to stick to the facts. And sometimes it's best just to say, listen and say, okay, and just kind of let them go. Because you're not going to win a factual argument with some of these people. You're just not. And don't always think you have to change everybody's mind. It's not your job to change everybody's mind. And it's fun to get in political discussions in college after a few drinks or whatever. And that's cool too. That's fun. But just, don't get into fights. Don't lose friendships. But always remember one thing. I'm Waters. And this is my world.